Awesome. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Anka, for organizing these epic events. I'm so utterly grateful that you create a platform for us to share our expertise, to share our learnings as well, so that we can help other traders to come up to our level and enjoy the markets, love the markets, make a shitload of money as well, right? So that's what we are all about, to bring everyone up with us and have a good time. Because I mean, the markets are so hard, but what makes it even harder is our mindset, right? And this is what I'm really specialized in. I'm not a psychologist. My website, Trading Psychology, confuses a lot of people. I'm not a psychologist. No interest in being a psychologist. Psychologists, they look mostly into the past, but they're not trained in creating a new future. Now, I also look into the past, but only to understand the patterns and the codings and the behaviors, so that I can use that information to create a new future for my trader. And this is really what we coaches do. So I'm a highly trained coach, diploma in coaching and all kinds of coaching, relationship coaching, like, you know, there's different segments of it. So any type of coaching that I can train myself in, I do the course. So I also have to do professional development trainings every year to keep my certification up. So the school that I'm with, they're really, really high on making sure that we give the best skill and value to our clients possible, because, you know, it's quite a responsible job to work with traders and their minds, right? So today we're going to talk about taming and retraining your inner critic. Why the topic? Because in these volatile markets, I found this was one of the key challenges that traders experience. So in that market, when it was kind of stable and traders had their little losses and you know, maybe consistent wins as well, their inner saboteur, their inner self-doubt, the inner critic didn't come out as strongly. But now in the last 3 months or 2 months, I've been so busy because a lot of traders found it incredibly hard, not the market so much, but dealing with their emotions in these roller coaster markets for them. So we all know the story of the Red Indian who, I hope that's politically correct to say Red Indian, never know nowadays. So of the Indian who tells his child a story about the two wolves. One wolf is on the left shoulder, the other wolf is on the right shoulder. And it's the wolf that we feed that wins the discussion. So the wolf, I think it's the one on the left here, that's like the nasty mean wolf who puts us down, who's like, you're worthless, you will never make it. Then we have the awesome inspiring spirit wolf who's like, come on, you can do it, you know, who taps into the champion of us and encourages us, and it's like, that's okay, you screwed up, you know, pick yourself up and keep going. And I saw that with Linda Rushke. Her mindset is exactly like this inspirational wolf when she has made a mistake. And you will see that when you read her book, Trading Sardines, which is all about all the challenges she experienced in trading and how she overcame them. So not a very typical trading book, right? The typical trading books are like, here's how you can be awesome, where you know, everything is fine. This is how you create your perfect world, which doesn't exist. Whereas Linda went down that path and she's like, here are all the challenges that I experienced in my 40-year trading career. And look, and I still made it. So I like to call that the spirit wolf. And so we talk today about how when that, you know, inner critic wolf is really overbearing and leading your trading experience with the emotional roller coaster, how to retrain yourself and transform into the spirit wolf that helps you and encourages you along the way with all the ups and downs. Because the reality is we can't avoid ups and downs. It's just, you know, it's just life. I mean, look at the people in Ukraine now, and my family has helped bringing a few Ukrainians over to Germany. And I can tell you, these people are traumatized. It's heartbreaking. And also the Russians, you know, I've got quite a lot of Russian friends, and they're also traumatized. It's not one good or bad. So again, it's like, you know, the two wolves that are in all of us. So when we look at the typical mistakes that we make. There's only so many mistakes we can make in trading. That's really good news, right? So we can enter too early, which is impulsive behavior. We can hesitate, so enter too late. We can exit too early, which is micromanaging, also driven by fear. We can exit too late or wait until the account is blown out. We can not take trades, right? So we let really good setups go. We look in reversals for reversals in trending markets, and also when we missed a setup. So that just happened to me yesterday, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I trained my mind. So what happened was I was short on Friday into the close. But then into the close, the Dow went up. I like trading the Dow. I can't read the S&P for my life. So the Dow went up into the close on Friday, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's going to recover or bounce on Monday. And so I closed out my short at, I don't know, $500 loss. And we all saw what happened Monday morning, right? Monday morning, the market dropped down, could have been a $2,000 profit. So then I was hesitant to get into the market because I knew that the effect of having had that loss and then having missed out on $2,000 profit would affect my emotional trading body, so to speak. And what happens then when we miss? So I closed out up here, trade opened down here, went further down, and automatically, this is our logical, this is how our brain is made up. We start looking for longs. Never mind, never mind, I missed out on the way down. I will make that money back on the way up, which is like completely not logical thinking, but understand that this is how your brain is wired. So when you understand how your brain is wired, so as soon as that thought came up in my mind, and that's was accompanied by feeling of urgency, it's like I want to get in and catch every little bullish candle, which was completely taken out immediately. I should have taken a screenshot, but I didn't think I'm going to talk about it. So knowing that this is just the bias of my brain and has nothing to do with trading skill, I could resist getting into the long and just waiting it out until I could read the market again and got a nice setup. So this is really, training your mind to do what doesn't come natural to us. So that's what also what's called a mismatcher. So that's an expression from neuro-linguistic programming, which I'm also trained in. So mismatchers are people who, when you say to them, oh, the sky is blue, they feel like saying, there's a cloud over there and it's a little bit of gray. So they always have the urge to say the opposite. Now, mismatchers make great people who drive change and improve, because they always look for what's not working, for what's wrong. But you can see in trading, it can actually work against us if we don't know how to use it to our advantage. And then looking for continuation patterns in volatile markets. So these are the people who look for sameness. They don't want to be different to others. They want to follow what the amazing people do. So they don't have their own beingness, so to speak. And but so they do well in trending markets, but not so much in volatile markets, whereas the mismatcher does really well in volatile markets. So when you understand these types of behavioral patterns and you know where you fit in, you now can start managing yourself and protect yourself from getting in the spiral of making a mistake and that then causing one unfortunate event after another. So the emotional traps that then result from this emotional trading is that you berate yourself. And when you berate yourself, you're busy looking at how you suck and how you will never make it, and that you have to take a break now. You maybe go to the fridge or you go for a walk. But what that means is that you miss out on the opportunities to make the money back, to make the profits back. And then you come back to the computer and like, oh man, if I had stayed here, then I could have made all my losses back and be in profit again. And then that, recreates that inner critic again, that self-berating. And so you're stuck in this vicious cycle, and then triggers going on tilt, or it triggers martingaleing into losing positions. All these trading mistakes that we know keeps traders stuck in the losing spiral, even though they might have the skill to trade well. So instead of exploring your emotional world, trying to make yourself feel, so instead of exploring your emotional world and understanding what's going on in your mind and in your conditioning, maybe in your behavioral patterns, the trader then goes and tries to make themselves feel better with distractions, even self-medicating. I have quite a few traders who I would say are on the verge of alcoholism. They would immediately go and drink because that's the only way that they can deal with the pain and the the self-berating, or going shopping or eating chocolates. It doesn't matter what the self-medication is. It's not that one is better than the other. They're all the same, right? So another one is what we call it's not emotional tagging, it is tension tagging. So tension tagging is when we then call someone and we complain to them, or complain to our partner about how we stuffed up. Tension tagging is something like your boss berated you or told you off or said you have to do a better job, and then you go to the kitchen and you see your colleague there and you tell your colleague what an idiot your boss is and how unfair he is because he just berated you. So that's tension tagging. Tension, T-E-N-S-I-O-N. Tension tagging is, again, when the trader or the person doesn't know how to process the uncomfortable, painful emotions, and so they kind of let it out over someone else. Yeah, so when someone is tension tagging, I know that what they can learn, what their gap is how to process information like an adult, because tension tagging is what children do. Because children obviously haven't learned how to process emotion because they're children, right? So, and that would be, also going to the chat room. Twitter is also tension tagging. Reading the next trading psychology book, or going to the webinar, or wanting to do a new course. All this is looking for an external resource to make yourself feel better, because you have lost your trust and your faith in yourself. And what that would have triggered is learned helplessness. So when you have a losing trade, and like a significant one that triggers all the emotional and the roller coaster, and you then want to reach to something outside of you, be aware that this is learned helplessness. Be aware that this is easier for you than going inside and figuring out what's going on for you. And so I hope that today's presentation is going to help you to get some key points on how you actually can go inside and process emotions and come out bigger and better. So I'm not saying not to read a trading book. I'm not saying not to go to the webinar. What I'm saying is that as a remedy for bad trading or trading losses, it's not helping, because the patterns, the behavioral patterns will still be the same. It's kind of like if you're driving a car, if you haven't learned how to take a curve really, really fast, because there's a skill to it. I did driver training when I got my little Mercedes, because it's a powerful car that didn't want to kill myself, kind of like trading. So no matter what car you have, if it is a Toyota Barina, a little car, or if it is a Lamborghini, it doesn't matter. It's the driver who knows how to ride the car. Yeah, so that's exactly the same. So let me give you some examples of the inner critic, how that comes out after a trade. I'm not talking, a normal losing trade where you get like cranky, or it's like, oh man, what did I do that for? Like the ones that really hurt. So I just completely lost control today. So this trader learned helplessness. I really don't know how to trade was the next sentence. Obviously, I'm very upset and I feel completely lost. I'm basically having a panic attack. And this is real for those traders, right? So what I then can see is, again, they haven't learned how to manage all the emotions that come up after having had a losing trade, or a significantly losing trade, even a fatal losing trade. that, took half of the account, they haven't learned what to do on the back of that. And they completely contract and go into self-punishment. And that's then really staying stuck. Like an intergalactic idiot, I gaze 10 hours at my screens and don't take any actions, even though there were 3 opportunities. And you feel the pain they're in. I always struggle with the changes to make, which path to go down. These are the difficult decisions. Should I use the candlestick trigger or not? So you can see like complete helplessness. The brain is foggy, like I'm so lost, I can't see. Should I learn more about this trading educator or not? And I told him not. Should I tighten up my rules or loosen them? Look at volume profile or not? So you can see like the mind is in complete spin of what has happened. So many decisions there, I feel really lost. The feelings of upset, depressed, angry. So you can see, hopefully you can see that if you have these kind of trading experiences, you're not alone, you're not the only one. This is completely normal for a certain type of traders. And there's no right or wrong, good or bad if you experience that. Don't use that opportunity to put yourself even more down. Look at it as, wow, okay, so this is actually a thing and there's a way out of it. Another trader, I hit my daily loss limit today. And then I increased my size because I was down. I wanted to make my money back. Then I was even more down because it didn't work. And then felt pain in my chest, shame, anger, fear. It was intense. And then as a result, he lost all the gains he had made in the last 5 days. Yeah, so then it's like, oh my God, will I ever be successful? I make money, I lose more. I make money, I lose more. So we can really feel what's going on for those guys. And I know that some of you can really relate to that. So what is the inner critic? The inner critic is exactly those voices. It's the voices that tell you who you are, what you have done well, what you haven't done well, what you should have done better, what you could have done better. That's your inner critic. The one that says to you, you're a loser, you're a failure, you will never make it as a trader. And these thoughts, this self-talk is then what induces those painful emotions of shame, anger, guilt, etc. So we call them in psychology ants, automatic negative thoughts. And if you ever had an ant crawling all over you, wow, it's very uncomfortable and they bite and it burns. So these painful emotions that traders then experience are mixed feelings of toxic shame. So there's a difference between shame and toxic shame. So shame is actually quite a helpful emotion. And anyone who has studied Brené Brown knows all about it. Shame is when I have broken the rules of my community. And so, for example, I got caught running naked in the streets, right? And in my civilization, it's not acceptable to run naked in the street. And then I would feel shame. So that's healthy because if I don't feel that shame, then I might do it again. I get ostracized of my community. Right? So it's genetics and biology at its best. Toxic shame is when I feel that there's something wrong with me. I'm a bad person because of that thing that I did. Toxic shame is learned behavior because, again, so now we have to look at our conditioning and programming from our childhood, where when we were little growing up, we did something, and then the people that we looked up to or loved and loved and who were our caretakers, parents, sports coaches, music coaches, teachers, right? Anyone who was important in our life would then ridicule us or would tell us off. That induces feelings of toxic shame. Yeah, inadequacy, self-doubt, depression, sucking all joy and happiness from life. Like anyone who has had a really stupid loss that had a fatal impact on the account knows what I'm talking about. Like nothing can make you feel better in that moment. So that's the inner critic at its best. So, but how is the inner critic a problem for traders? Because it's not always a problem. And that's the good news. So the inner critic as a consequence of the inner critic's automatic nagging thoughts and the feelings that those thoughts trigger, the trader's brain can go into fight or flight. And we know what happens when it's in fight or flight. We get all fogged up. We can't think clearly anymore. We think every tick, every blue or green bar might be a long entry and it's going to save us. Or, you know, like what happened today, the market just came down, and I was working with a trader before, and he's like, I was just waiting for the market to come up, but it just kept ticking down. It's like, yeah, that's your brain, your inner critic. You were not able to think clearly because there was no indication that into the close, the market is going to reverse back long again. And it's then the inability to act, right? Freezing, feeling paralyzed, and letting the losses run because you feel frozen or paralyzed. It causes self-sabotaging actions like going on tilt, like martingale into losing positions, which, by the way, are the two main behaviors that we see why 75% of traders never breach the break-even level. So, you know, in the over in the EU, European Union, brokers have now to report, I think, monthly or 3 monthly, I can't remember. And so 75% of traders are consistently in a loss. And thoughts are that it's even more. It's just reporting is made quite cleverly to kind of fudge the numbers. It's still 90%. Some people say, doesn't matter to me, right? 75, 90. It's a human being behind. It's their dreams behind. It's their future behind. It's the future of their family behind. And like the story with the sea star, I don't know if you guys know that story. I can't remember. It was from a movie where someone walks along the beach and there's like thousands of those little sea stars washed on the beach. And then the person starts picking them up and throws them back into the water. And another person walks past and say, there's so many, there's thousands of them. You can't save them all. And then the guy who's throwing them back into the water says, but it makes a difference to that one star. And that's what I can do. That's in my control. And so it's pretty much the same, right? Where to me, it doesn't matter if it's 75% or 90% of traders failing. Behind those numbers are real humans. So, and also not just that they're failing, but they haven't obviously found that there is a way of improving, right? That there's a way out of that mess. So, and that's what Anka and all of us here trying to do, to say, hey, possibility. There is a way out of having losing trades and living a miserable life because of it. You can have an amazing life, right? So, and again, the self-harm when the pain becomes too much to bear. And this is then the vicious cycle, right? So you have a loss, the inner critic starts talking, and it's not usually the first loss, it's usually, so if you look at your statistics, you can look at number of losses in a row, number of profits in a row. And usually it's like, you can also see like after how many losses, your losses then increase, the size of the loss increases. That is usually when your inner critic has then kicked in with self-talk. Oh man, I have to make that money back. Or, you know, my trading manager is going to kick me out. All these fear thoughts. For the hedge fund guys, I have to do reporting. My clients are going to leave me. That's a real problems, right? That's not just made up stuff, but it's not going to help, right? And then it makes you feel bad, whatever bad means. I don't like to use the words good or bad, but bad kind of encompasses everything that we mentioned before: the shame, the guilt, the fears, the feelings of inadequacy. And that then creates an inability to think clearly and logically in that moment when we actually need it. So, all right, so I made a mistake, I'm down, like, how can I get myself out of that? It's like, oh my God, I'll never make it. And then they're trying to force and they're trying even harder. But when they try harder, they try the wrong thing. They try harder by trying to fix that loss rather than, you know, calming down, collecting your thoughts and looking for a really good and clear and clean entry. Yeah, so that's the panic that then sets in. And again, this is something where Linda is like super, super strong in, where she has this, so Linda Rushke, she has this story in her book where there was, she was in a long trade, I think it was beefs, and she, there was an arbitrage burning down over the weekend, and the market opened up limit down on a Monday, and she was in this massive loss. And so, she was running the fund at the time. And so she really sat down, said, okay, so what are my strengths? I have an amazing team around me. I can always pick amazing trades. I just need to focus and then make, I think it was $200,000 a day, and then I have made up for that loss by the end of the month, right? So that's possibility thinking, even though she would have felt really horrible about it, but it doesn't impair her thinking, her clarity of thinking. And that's what we can train, what anyone can train to do. Yeah, because when the brain goes foggy, that's a stress response. Right? The tilting, the martingating is a stress response. That causes then more losses, and then the vicious circle goes spiraling down into the abyss. So Bob Burain, which is one of Linda's friends, he's an amazing guy. I think he's in his 80s now, and he trades still full time. It's just really cool dude. So to recover from one's own stupidity is the mark of a good trader. And I love that so much, because that's exactly what I see in amazing traders. They make a mistake, and then they're really angry at themselves as well. Of course, right? It hurts, but they know how to pick themselves up and to keep going. So traders who are able to cope with the challenges in trading and easily bounce back from those setbacks, they're the ones who have a long and powerful trading life. So let's have a look. Which traders are mostly affected? Because, as you know, not every trader is affected from the inner critic. For some, the inner critic is a motivation, inspiration to be better, to learn more, to look at, okay, so what was it that didn't work in that moment? What are my gaps? What can I improve on, rather than really taking the knife and cutting themselves off, cutting the heart out, basically. So consider that the inner critic conversation is simply learned behavior, nothing else. And so if you go down into the spiral of, oh man, I'm such a loser, and you have this pain and, even feel sick in your tummy, whatever it is, remind yourself, this is just old learned behavior. And the good news is I can unlearn that behavior and learn new behavior and become like those traders, like Anka, who are really grounded and solid in their mindset, in their personality, and in their psychology. So there's a concept called autonomy in psychology. Now, autonomy is how a person is able to take responsibility for their lives. Naturally, and this is from, I think Lisa Feldman is her name, Dr. Lisa Feldman, she's amazing, she's on Twitter. I can send Anka the link later if someone's interested. So she says, when there is a loud noise, and there's danger, all our mind can do is go back to the past, compare to the past, and then make a judgment if there's danger or not. And I experienced it on my own myself recently. So there was an earthquake here, and I've never experienced an earthquake. I've seen them on TV. I've experienced typhoons, but never an earthquake. So the house was shaking, and I live quite high up. I'm like, what's happening? I had no idea what was going on until it dawned to me that it was an earthquake. So my mind was trying to go back to the past and comparing like what's going on, and it didn't know. Until then my conscious mind kicked in. It's like, hey, you've seen it on TV. It's an earthquake. So if I had never seen it on TV, I wonder what my mind would have gone to. And so I did the thing that I'm not supposed to do. I ran downstairs. I mean, like, what am I supposed to do, right? Stay in the room, I don't know. So, but everything was fine, right? There was no damage. But this is exactly what happens. So when you have these trading experiences, what your mind naturally does, it goes back to the times when you grew up and you made a mistake and how people responded to you when you made that mistake. So that's the trigger. Now I asked Linda, so what enabled you to have such a healthy response? And she said, look, people, yeah, they were critical if I made a mistake, but they always believed in me. They always said, Linda, you've got what it takes. Now, if you had someone in your life who believed in you, you might have also a very strong mindset. If you have someone who always doubted you, then you learned helplessness. Right? So that's really from a young age on, when you don't have the ability and the faculty to make up your own mind, when you're really still malleable. So the example is when you're a baby, or when we are babies, we have no autonomy at all. We are dependent on other people. Then we learn to roll over, so we get a little bit of autonomy. Then we learn to say gaga baba, so we get a little bit more autonomy. And then we get to a point where then our caretakers can make us or break us as parents. So when they take full responsibility for you and take care of you, and you're not able to develop your own autonomy. Very simple example. I see that with younger siblings. The younger sibling is trying to learn to tie up their shoelaces. The older sibling comes and says, I do it for you. So the younger sibling has learned lack of autonomy because someone else came and did it for them. So the meaning the child and the belief the child grows up with is, I can't do it on my own. I need someone else to do it for me. I'm helpless, right? I'm not capable. And all these thoughts that a child would think unconsciously and then create beliefs out of it that then rule its life. And then there's the too much autonomy, where the child was completely left on its own devices, was pretty much neglected, emotionally neglected, not necessarily financially or, externally neglected, like they got food and shelter and good school education, but no emotional attention. So they become too autonomous, and they find it hard to accept help because, it's just like, oh no, I can't allow that. So ask yourself, how were you conditioned? And just to understand what your behavioral patterns are today, and one trader was really interesting. He said to me, yeah, but when I say that because my mom did everything for me and she tried to rescue me, then I'm not taking responsibility. And that was really interesting because that's not the case. So if you say, because my mom always belittled me and took away autonomy from me, didn't teach me how to be responsible, I can't succeed in trading. That is not taking responsibility. That's what we call a complex equivalent, where you make one thing mean another thing, and that completely screws up your life. But if you say, wow, look, this is my conditioning. My mom taught me these things. And bless her, it's not because she wanted to be a bad mom. It's because she loves her son so much. And we always remember that. And we always need to remember how our parents got conditioned and programmed. So there's never judgment. There's just observation. And then using that observation to improve ourselves. So to say, all right, so because I have been conditioned like that, I behave like that in the markets. And so if I want to change my behavior, I need to change my conditioning. And now I know how to. So for example, this trader always asked me for my opinion. Do you think, and by the way, it was the one here. No surprise, right? Should I tighten my rules or loosen them? Should I go to this training event? Should I use candles? Also, you can see his family always made decisions for him. He doesn't have a framework of how to make a great decision. And so that's the helplessness, right? It's just so interesting. And so what he needs to learn is how to make decisions, which is just like learning a language. It's not rocket science. Yeah, so that's what we call strategic thinking. It's called thinking in consequences. It's called logical thinking. And there's heaps of resources on the internet on how to do that. So then there's something that's called a cognitive stack. And I love cognitive stacks. Like when I explain that to my traders, it empowers them so much. So a cognitive stack is something like when you do a Myers-Briggs, for example, or a DISC profile. What that tells me as a trained Myers-Briggs and DISC trainer is, how do you naturally think? And the people who go naturally first into logic, they don't suffer from the harmful effects of an inner critic conversation as badly, because they use the inner critic to champion them on. So it's usually the people who naturally go first into feelings, the ones who are very intuitive or kinesthetic, as we say in neurolinguistic programming, who are driven by feelings. So they have to make a decision. What they first do is they tap into their feeling. What does it feel like? Is that something I want to do or not? Whereas the ones driven by thinking, they tap into, is that a decision that would bring me forward or not? Again, it's learned behavior, right? Nothing else. So if you're someone who's driven by feeling, doesn't mean that you cut it out. It means that you add logic to it. So, okay, so I have to make this decision. What does it feel like? You know, that's what we call tapping into your values. Values are the feelings that we would like to experience. So like, you know, many traders say, I want to be free. I want to experience freedom. So is the thing that I'm doing right now going to help me be more free? That would be a feeling. So that can be a feeling. And then when you have that feeling, oh no, it's going to take away my freedom. Like I can't breathe, it's choking me. You now at thinking, you say, all right, so that's the feeling. Let's see what the thinking tells us. If I do this thing, what consequences does that have, or what opportunities open up? Yeah, so you do an equal pro and con assessment. So for example, someone said to me, you should run group trainings, 6 weeks, everyone does it now. And so I immediately felt the feeling of, oh, I don't want to do group trainings, right? And so that was my value of autonomy, of freedom, immediately creating a feeling in my body. And then I followed that up with, okay, so what are the pros and cons of running a training? And it's like, at the moment, I don't want to run a training because I want to focus on trading. And, I've got enough to do with my private clients. And I love working with my private clients. And I want to be free to go to, Anka's side of the world in May. So I can't do that when I start running a training. So you can see that I then underpinned my feeling with a logical cognitive stack. So do you go first to feeling and then into logic? And then what most traders do to put that back into the critical thinking context, when they have made a fatal decision in their trading that ended up in a loss, in a painful loss, their cognitive stack is going first into feeling, because old feelings come up. They made a mistake in the past. They were being ridiculed. They were being punished. They were being shut down. Whatever it was, doesn't matter. They feel bad. Then automatically they go into thinking, comparing to the past, looking only for how they suck, how they're not good enough, how they're failures, how they will never make it, how they're proving their parents right because they never believed in them, and so on, and so on, and so on. Someone who has control of their cognitive stack, they do that still, maybe, and then they go into challenging that. Is that really true? Okay, you made a really bad trading decision here. Like, let's say you went on tilt. Not okay. That's not the trader you want to be. Does it really mean that I will never make it in the future? No, because all it means is there's something for you to learn. What is that something? And now you can look at what are the components of trading. Well, it's your mindset, it's your methodology, and it's your your skill set. So your mindset is, did you automatically drift into the inner critic conversation that kept you stuck and keeping your mind cloudy and you couldn't make logical decisions? And you made really bad trading decisions on the back of it. Now, so that's the mindset. What fears trigger that are unrealistic? And then methodology is, and this is what the trader mentioned this morning to me. He's like, my methodology is not working in this market because the swings are too strong in either direction. So, well, I now need to work on my methodology. Or is it your skill set that you knew what to do, but the market was moving so fast that you weren't able to react quickly enough, or that maybe your money in risk management is out of whack because of the volatility. So going back, stepping back from judging yourself to focusing on the subject matter, methodology, mindset, self-management. Methodology, mindset, and skill set. So many different words, mindset, you could say self-management, that's all that falls under that. So that's what your filter is. Is your filter results and outcome focused? What I mean with that is your filter, and I see that with every trader who becomes victim of the inner critic, they only look at how much money they have made or lost. So I have made that much money or lost that much money is the result. I have made that much money. I'm amazing. Life is good. I feel good about myself. I have lost that much money. I'm a loser. I will never make it. It hurts. I just want to hide under my pillows and never come out again. So the outcome is then how you view yourself. So you have this result, which is a statistic. The outcome is the meaning you give that result. And so I suck or I'm amazing. I see them really pendling between these two complete extremes. So the filter to use is focusing on process, right? What is my profit factor? And it's really funny when I go back and say, hey, show me your stats. What does your stats say? Look at your profit factor. It's still 1.8. That means for every dollar you lose, you make $1.80 profits. Like, come on, one trader was like, oh, my win ratio is only 50%. It's like, I don't care about your win ratio. Show me your profit factor. It was 2.5 or 2.4 or something. I was like, dude, for every dollar you lose, you make $2.40 profit. Like, your money in risk management is epic. Who cares about win ratio, right? So looking for the filters that keep you stuck and that confirm how you're not good enough. That is the natural programming that many traders have. And then to go and say, all right, so now I looked at how I'm not good enough, how I'm a loser. Let's now look for how I am actually good enough. Yeah, so that's really the good news. It's not the inner critic itself that causes those self-sabotaging actions. It's how we have been trained to respond to the automatic nagging thoughts of the inner critic. That's all it is. And so you can unlearn that. And remember, your mind is the most powerful muscle in your trading body. And it's a muscle because, traders come to me and say, well, we talk about transforming their inner critic and how to respond to it. Then 2 days later, they come to me and say, I still make the same mistake. It's like, yeah, dude, because your muscle is still weak. Just because we talk about it doesn't mean that you can do it. Like, just because we talk about 100 push-ups doesn't mean you cannot do 100 push-ups. You need to practice it. And so I find this also really key indication of learned helplessness, where traders, they don't use their brain. They are just like in the emotions, and that's not a judgment, right? It's because they have been shut down all the time. They need to learn. I need to remind them, you need to go and practice. You need to go and practice that kind of thinking like a new language. Because if we train our mind, it can actually help us to be better. And that's what we want to do, what we want our mind to do, to be honest to us. To, oh wow, girl, your butt looks big, your butt looks big in those jeans. Like, don't sweet talk yourself out of it. Be realistic and say, you didn't do well here. Let's do something about it. Or, you're a bit too harsh on yourself. It actually, you're not that bad as you think you are. Yes, you can improve, but it doesn't mean that you need to go into this, I'm such a loser kind of mindset, because to be honest, it's incredibly annoying. And this is what I've found with successful, amazing people. They don't want to hang out with whingers and whiners. They want to hang out with people who are possibility driven, opportunity driven, who are like picking themselves up like Linda, who are, okay, so can you give me some insights on how to improve? They don't start the sentence or, the emails with, I completely stuffed up today. I don't care. Ask me how to improve. Don't whinge to me how you did badly. And so this is me retraining the trader to think differently and not to go into the self-harm with these self-harm thoughts. So we can train our inner critic to identify our gaps and use it as inspiration and motivation to tap into our strengths. So what I found with these traders who are listening to the inner critic that causes self-sabotaging actions is that they have been trained to go back and look at how they suck. They have not been taught to go back and look at how they're actually amazing. The trading is incredibly hard and they are fighting for it, and look for the strengths that help them to come out of it bigger and better. So how, if you do a strength profile and curiosity is on the top of your profile, how can curiosity help you to get out of that mess that you made with your trade, right? And evolve and become better. The strength profile, by the way, is on a website called VIA.com, I think it is, or VIA.org. So really recommend you to do them and then to look at how can I use these strengths to improve as a trader. That's what I do with my guys, by the way. So again, there's no secrets to changing your trading. It is always know yourself. What are the critical moments in your trading? Remember how I mentioned before, on Monday morning, I knew that was a critical moment for me, where in the past, because I had missed out on this massive gap down, I would have gone long and created even more pain because the market just kept collapsing. Every uptick was taken out. So I know this is a critical moment for me. That is a gap for me. That's where I need to strengthen my muscles, right? And then could control myself and be patient to wait for the setup that I knew was the setup for me to go in and then make all the losses back, right? Or it wasn't even a loss. It was, what I felt I missed out on. And then, reminding myself, what's the big deal of having missed out? It's just my ego, because I want that feel-good feeling of, man, I made $2,000 on the drop down, and acknowledging it. Yeah, my little ego wants to have this feeling of being a superstar, right? So give those behaviors a name, and and develop an early warning signal. So for me, because I'm very feeling driven, early warning signals are feelings. I recognize the feelings that are there just before I made a mistake. And it took me a year to really identify and go deep. And I can tell you that is harder than picking up a trading psychology book and making yourself feel better, or go and learn a new strategy from another trader. Do that as well, but you need to do that inner work. That is so powerful. And then go on live market replay and retrade those markets. Right? So emotional reactivity as a stress response. How have you been trained to react to stress? Right? Just trying to keep an eye on the time. So how have you been trained to react to stress? And if you react to stress with a foggy brain, so for example, in the past, when someone would put me on the spot with a question, my brain would go blank. That was my stress response. So I trained myself to, when someone asked me a question and my brain goes blank, to have a question or a thought ready that helps me to bridge that gap from the stress brain to the logical brain. And then I can access my knowledge and my wisdom, my experience again. Because I have so much knowledge and experience and tool sets, I can always respond with something. So that's not the problem. The problem is that it caused stress and fear. And again, that's, how I was conditioned as childhood. but I wasn't, that's not how I define myself. It's the growing from it, right? And then practice, 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 managing and taming your inner critic and make it really your greatest champion. So that's the difference between the helpless trader and the empowered trader. The inner critic is solely driven by feelings. There's nothing wrong with it. So for example, I was working with a trader yesterday, and he's the first cognitive stock, right? So a stack is first he goes to feeling. And then we found out, and I'm also feeling driven, so I read the decks mostly by feeling. I have my technical setups, but then yesterday was a beautiful double bottom on the hourly chart, and then the DAX rallied up, and then at the top you can feel the DAX losing power, and then it starts slowing down, and then it rolled over. So I feel when the move is over. So I don't want to suppress my feelings. I want to use them to keep helping me make those decisions when to exit my trade. Also underpinned by logical thinking. So as you guys know, the guys who know me, I love using my trend lines as an exit. If it breaches my trend line, I get out. I don't care if it comes back out and comes back up. I can always go back in, but I keep it very simple nowadays. The inner champion is driven by logical thinking and by feelings. So I needed to learn how to think logically, add that logical framework to my thinking. This is what Charlie Munger calls mental models, right? So learn how to have a framework of thinking when the feelings kick in that help you to become the champion. Inner critics have black and white, good or bad thinking. Again, what I said before, I made a profit, I'm awesome. I make a loss, I suck. So results and outcome focused. Inner champion is solution and results focused. So in this case, what solutions can I bring in? What can I do to improve my results? Right. So what are my strengths that I can tap in to become a better trader so that this won't happen again? The inner critic, again, is outcome results focused in terms of how much money have I made or lost, and what does it make me feel like? The inner champion filters solely for, all right, is that useful and helpful for me to become better or not? And they really understand the complexity of trading. They're not like black and white. They know trading is hard. Today I did well. Tomorrow I might not do so well. And it's constantly adjusting to those moments. The inner critic trader is also stuck in their old story, how they are not good enough, how they're stuffed up in the past. The inner champion trader has transformed that to, yeah, okay, I stuffed up in the past, but I'm not this person anymore. I've grown so much. I have new strengths developed. I have new skills developed. And they're progress focused. And again, when I speak to an inner critic, they only tell me how much money they've made or lost. They completely ditch all their progress stats, even though we have spoken about it. So I need to keep reminding them until the inner critic has been trained and transformed into the inner champion. Very much scarcity driven, right? So greed is a scarcity feeling where I should have made more profits, or I want to stay in the trade and just get another $100 more. The fear that there's not enough opportunities, that's all, again, trained behavior where you either have experienced scarcity in the past, or it was what your parents experienced. So a lot of us who have parents from post-World War times. So my mom, there was nothing to eat when my mom was little. My mom's father was a prisoner of war until she was 3. That's when she met him for the first time. Right? So that would have impacted my mom tremendously. And of course, she passed it on to me because she didn't have a coach. There was no such thing as coaching and, improving your mindset. So I needed to look at what did my mom teach me so that I can take these elements and improve myself. And then as I improved, my mom automatically improved with me, which was just so beautiful, and became really close. And I know Anka and her mom are really, really close as well, which when you get to our age, it's something very precious. I can tell you that, especially for our moms. And so consecrating a new future, possibility, forward thinking. That's the inner champion. So, and remember, every successful trader has a dark past. Linda started out in her first 6 months having an $80,000 loss US dollars, which in 1980s was a lot. And look where she ended up, right? One of the best traders in the world. And every losing trader, because of that, has a bright future. You just figure out how to change and transform and become better. And as Karl Barth said, no one can go back and make a brand new start, but anyone can start from now and make a brand new end. And this is where Anka's training comes in. If you haven't done well in the past, really, I saw Anka trade live. I'm just starstruck. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I hope I could help you guys to grow and evolve and have a different perspective on life and trading, and know that it is possible to have an epic future. Exactly what Anka said when I listened in before I got started. Right. Do we have David? Shall we do some questions? Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, if there's any questions, yeah, feel free to take a few extra minutes here. You're the last presenter of the day, so we're not going to overlap with anyone else. So
good. So there's actually not many questions. So if traders are that deep into negative thoughts, shut off the computer and take some time off. Yeah, so I am not a big fan of shutting the computer off and taking time off, because it doesn't change anything. It's just a hiding part. Shut the computer off. Go on live market replay. Retrade what you screwed up. So you bring more unconscious competence to your to your library of your mindset. And so if you don't go back and retrade those trades, you have in your memory bank all these mistakes that you made, the losses that you made. So when you come up against it in the future, what does your mind do? It goes back and says, remember last time you had this really bad loss. And that's when you might hesitate. So that's why you have to retrain. If you made losses, if you missed trades, all it means that something was missing in your methodology, in your skill set, in your mindset, nothing else. If you shut off and walk away, you do not fill those gaps. Yeah, so return only after you've done that work. So I had a trader, he's epic, right? So we transformed from being a losing trader into, he makes on average $500, $1,000 a day. And then he had one day he went into complete meltdown. 27 trades, right? Going on tilt, $10,000 loss, wiping out everything that he did and worse. And he was like, I step away, I can't do it. And I said to him, you do what you always do. Every day he sends me his screenshots. Every day he sends me his reports. And then when he screwed up, he didn't want to do that. And I said, no, if you don't do it, I'm not going to coach you anymore, because I don't want to work with whiners. And so I use those words because that actually motivates him. He's negatively motivated. If I had used words like, come on, you can do it, and encouraged him, and don't you want to be an amazing trader, it would have not landed on him, because he is not moving towards, to use Tony Robbins' words, motivated. He's moving away from motivated. I don't want to live a crap life. I don't want to be a failure, right? That motivates him. So that's why I use those words with him. Wasn't me shaming him at all. So I said to him, you can do it. And he was spending 2 hours doing that work. And I tell you, it was the best thing he ever did. He came back the next day and made it all back. Yeah. So what we then did was, he didn't leave with a memory bank of failures. He created a new memory bank of, wow, I actually didn't do that well, that badly. There were some, and that was really interesting as well. So when he initially sent me his trades that were then profitable of the 27, he's like, look, I just got lucky. And I'm like, lucky? That was an epic trade. Look, exactly according to your methodology. So you can see he filtered only for how he was a loser and how he sucked. And by the way, this is how he was trained by his mother. That was his response from his mother. And his mother did that because she wanted the best for him. And she thought this is to train her son to harden up and to be great, but it didn't work for him. She, you know, that really helped him to shut down. It was all it did, and feel shame. So, and then I said, you did really well. And he's like, actually, you're right. And he was so excited because for the first time, he learned the balanced thinking. I did badly here. Like, I don't know why I didn't take my profit and let it run into this massive loss. But I did great here, right? That's balanced thinking. So that I encourage you to do as well. I think he is so well without my glasses. So I hope this is useful for you. Walking away is not helping you to improve, right? Yeah. I find that also once you have learned to become a to transform the inner critic, even if you had a fatal loss, you can just pick yourself up like that and keep going, because you don't have all this shame response anymore and stress response. Now, so when you get to that point that you make a stupid loss and then you can pick yourself up and keep going, then you know you have a champion mindset. Until that, you have to keep practicing and training those muscles. Okay. This was really mindful. Knowing the psychology of trading can really change. Yeah, it can. Yeah, it can. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Mike. I'm so glad that it's helpful. Yeah, and I love that you don't use the words good or bad, that you really use tangible words, powerful words like insightful and helpful. Speaks to your mindset, by the way. That was so great. Do you ever use EFT? I love the EFT. I'm not a trained EFT practitioner, and that's why I'm not using it, because, you know, we really have to be careful whom we expose ourselves to. Only work with people who are really trained in their modality. But if maybe I do an EFT course down the line, who knows? But it's the only reason. I think it's phenomenal. If it is someone who's working greatly with EFT. My kinesiologist uses EFT, and I've got epic results. I think it's awesome. So yeah, absolutely. You can use EFT. EFT on its own, I don't think is useful, because it just works on one modality. It doesn't help you to transform your thinking and to train that mind muscle. But EFT as a supporting tool, absolutely. Yeah, right. I think we have covered all the questions. What do you reckon, David? Oh, there's one new message. Oh, there's more. I want to take some reading of therapy with a point of view as you speak. After losing the first account, welcome. We all lose our first and subsequent accounts. Yeah, it's really, start there. Like, it sucks losing your account, especially if money is scarce. But it's the life of a trader. Kind of like people who learn how to ride the skateboard and do crazy tricks. They all have broken bones. It's painful. I could not take a trade, even if I was in the right thought and technical analysis. So it's very difficult to say. Awesome question, by the way. I love it, because, and this is what I have a problem when I see here. This is my system to have traders transform. Everyone is different. I don't think there's one system to transform a trader. So what I'm assuming is that and I don't know who you are and what you've done, so I can just pick little bits and pieces, that in the past, you might have experienced some trauma. And that when you lost your first account, the trauma was triggered. So we have two types of coaching, right? So one is what I call foundational coaching. And the other one is called optimized coaching. It's just words that I gave it for my own understanding. The foundational coaching is for traders who, like myself, have not learned in their formative years to have a strong mindset, to have a champion mindset, to who are low in neuroticism, so not very emotional, but very grounded and balanced. I was super neurotic, right? I was a mess. And so I needed to put in the foundations of my mindset first. Basically, what that means translated is growing up and become a functional human being, learning how to process emotions and so on, before I could build on becoming a better trader. So if that is the case, and I know it's had some trauma in childhood that I needed to heal, not a big deal, right? So once you identify it, it's done like this, dissolved like this. Unless it's, clinical trauma, that's a very different story, right? So I don't touch that at all. That's for psychologists and psychiatrists. But if it is the normal trauma that we all experience as children, then losing an account could trigger that. So first we need to look at what is happened in the past that could have been triggered, and not to go back to the past, but to understand the behavior, the conditioning and programming. And now when we understand that, now we can go into reprogramming and reconditioning. We need to understand what is your natural cognitive stack. Do you go first into feeling, which I suspect, then into thinking, then into tapping? Do you go tapping into your strengths, or do you tap into your weaknesses naturally, right? So all these cognitive stacks we need to identify, and then we can transform it once you know it. We would need to know your skill level, right? So is there maybe a gap in your skill that can be added? Is there maybe something in your methodology that the market is not so suitable for your natural sweet spots of where you perform best? Right, so I'm a scalper. I like trading really short term. Put me on a long term swing trade or on a swing trade, can't read the market. I'm hopeless, right? So I know that of myself, so I don't do it. How do I know? Everything in my life that I excelled at was always short term. I used to be a show jumper on a horse, right? You take an obstacle, you completely focus, take the obstacle, then you relax. Completely focus on the next obstacle, then you relax. I used to do slalom and moguls as a skier when I was, in my teens. Also very short term, right? It's not alpine, easy going downhill. So look at your natural behavioral pattern in your life. Are you more suited for taking your time to make decisions and for sticking with the longer term behaviors, like being a marathon runner, or are you more of a sprinter? So again, that's why it's really, really hard to give you any recommendations without knowing you. I wish I could. Let me think. I really want to give you one piece. So when you hesitate to trade, really become aware of how you talk yourself out of taking the trade. And then challenge that thought. So for example, my problem was not taking trades. My problem was not getting out of losing trades. And so the example could be, I would talk myself out of taking my loss by saying, I betcha that the moment I get out of my loss, the trade is going to turn around and go into profit. And in my mind, I would see that playing out. Very powerful, our mind. I wasn't aware of that. All I was aware of was that feeling sick in my tummy when, my account went down and down and down. Excellent, Theresa, right? So you're all human, which makes it amazing, because we just need to look at what are the typical behaviors, and we can look at transforming them. So I trained myself. So that was a lack of discipline, to give it an overarching topic. And I looked at my other areas of my life. There was a lack of discipline everywhere. I would say, I'm going to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday came, I don't feel like going to the gym, I don't go. Right? So because my first cognitive stack is going into feeling. And so I added thinking to that. So in my trading, I say, doesn't matter, it's not the point. Of course it's going to go up. That's Trader Murphy's law. Because I can't say, oh no, it's not going to go up after you got out. Because that's not the reality. The reality is, I know everybody has experienced that it will go up. So become okay with it will go up, and become okay with hurting. So a lot of traders wait until they feel better until they feel like doing this thing, and the feeling will never come. I was doing that with my gym. I was waiting for the moment to feel like going to the gym, and then it was evening, then it was too late, right? So now I'm saying to myself, oh, I don't feel like going to the gym. Not the point, go. So that's how I talk to myself. Or, you know, I want to clean my kitchen every day, every night before I go to bed. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, you know, it was such a big day. And it's like, tomorrow doesn't exist, do it now. That is the talk that I developed for myself to learn discipline. And then I had to practice that, of course, because just because I created that new cognitive stack of feeling, self-talk, and then doing, that wasn't enough. Like, it's really practicing, because you're fighting against the resistance. It's like running up a hill and your legs hurt and burn and you want to stop. And the first 100 times you do stop, but you get further every time until you learn to block the pain out and to just do what needs to be done so that you can reach your goal. So I hope that helps a little. I want to be conscious, because I don't know you, and not give you some recommendations that are actually working against you. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions? I think we made it.